Beep, beep. What is up, ninjas? My name is Sam World and welcome. Now, lately I've been pondering what makes Tech House Bass lines great, like from these big tracks that you hear in the Beatport's top 100, top 10, any different from ours, and how can we learn from them? So what I decided to do is I decided to go on Beatport's top 100, and of course, I feel like this is the holy grail for a lot of tech house producers as we're making club music. And if you get on here, you're going to have your local club DJ, your local bar DJ playing some of this out if they play tech house. So what I did is I remade a lot of them, and I did some of my favorite ones like the John Summit, Make Me Feel, Everybody Say What, Lights Go Out, The Breaks, Pump the Brakes, Martin Nickens, Dance Now, and then a couple of more. Now, there's a couple of patterns and stuff that I saw that was different from what I would normally do if I were to play on a MIDI keyboard, and today we're going to be talking about that. As always, guys, if you want to support the channel, make sure to head over to evilsounds.com, and let's get into how to make bass lines like these guys. So the first thing we got to talk about, guys, is the key of the song. Depending on what kind of key you're at, if you hear John Summit's The Way You Make Me Feel versus, let's say, something like Pump the Brakes by Dom Dalla, you're going to notice a big change in sort of the tone of the track. And this is something that a lot of us producers kind of don't really think about. And that is the fact that key plays a huge role in what kind of track you're going to get. If you go with lower keys, like John Summit's in C minor, you're going to notice that sounds a lot dirtier and a lot more grittier. Okay, versus A minor, which I believe the Dom Dalla track's in G sharp. But in A minor, if I play the same thing, now A minor, you can see that the vibe completely changes on this. So if you're trying to make something dirty, just stick to lower keys, lower scales, versus if you're trying to make something very subby or more goofier, I guess, or groovy, let's say, then you go higher up. Now, of course, this is just a theory and a tip. You can break it if you want. You can say F offs and you're full of blah. And that's totally up to you, but I do believe that the key does play a huge role. Okay, from there, let's get into writing some bass lines and getting into some more tips. So the next thing is, depending on what kind of track you want to create, there's something that happens when you first create the bass, and if you want to copy it, it's all up to you. But if you notice, what these bass lines all have in common, especially the top ones that I have here, and then we hear the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. I'm sure you can sense that rhythm is the same, different BPMs, 124 to 126 on these ones, but majority of them have that starting point. And if you go on Beatport Top 100, you're going to find that a lot of them are going with that. So when they start the song, we'll go something like this. We went too low on that. Okay, so that's a good starting point. Now, there's nothing wrong with starting on, obviously, that's just a different vibe, and of course, just an offbeat. You can kind of do whatever you want, but if you want to have a place to start, we can go from there. Now, let's create something here. So we can do that, and let's kind of create like a rhythm. All right, guys, so I've written a very basic rhythm pattern here, which there's something in here that I don't like, which we're going to talk about, but sort of groovy and whatnot. But there's one thing here that I hate, and that is the fact that every single damn note almost has the same length to it. Now, if we again go dissect some of the other tracks, you're going to notice there's a bit of variation that happens with the length of the note. So this is something I see a lot with producers, especially when you have a MIDI keyboard, is that you tend to make the same. And that's a little bit of a mistake just because you lose a lot of groove opportunity when you do this. So for instance, I could go compared to, you see the difference. This one's a lot more punchier, gives a little bit more vibe. So we can kind of implement little things like this. And then, this guy doesn't need to be this long, of course. Okay, doon doon. Versus having this long. We can now decrease that a bit. And we can even go even further. Okay, that's a little too much, but let's ease out. Okay, from there, let's just get these guys to where we need. So one of the things is that you can create variation with the bass notes that you're hitting to get more groove out of it versus, again, just going with like the same length of notes. As simple as that sounds, it's something that you're going to notice. And now we're grooving. From there, you can add a bit of swing, and there is a rule that comes with the swing. So when you're adding swing to any sort of note, guys, you always want the first to land on beat. That's it. But anything like this, you can definitely shift a little bit more to the right. And then that's going to give you a little bit more swing and make it a lot more groovy full. And this is something, again, you're going to see a lot. This one, we're going to leave there. But we're going to do it more to these guys here, which are going to be more not on the beat. And here we're just going to elongate that a little bit just to add a bit of variation to the second time it comes around. From here, it's time to get into melody. Now, writing melodies, there's a big rule that comes, guys. And the first thing is, if you want to make something driving, don't get too melodic with it. What that means is don't jump around a lot. Like go like, oh, I don't know, I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to do this. Because you're going to lose a lot of the driving power that your track has. So in order to get driving kind of patterns, you want to walk the bass, as they say. And what that means is if I want to get to a certain note, I'm going to walk it there. It's like walking the dog. And that's just going like, if I want to go up here, then we can kind of do this. And then maybe like the badass note up a semi. And then that's going to sound a lot better than going and jumping all over the place. And this is something you're going to notice with a lot of these as well, is the fact that the note separation, the jumps, aren't that big on at, you know, majority of the time, depending on what track you're looking at. Here, this guy is going to be more melodic. But once you start going into ones like this, you can see the jumps are not that big. We're not going too crazy with them. Pump the brakes, that one does it. But again, it's a more melodic and not as driving. Aiken's Dance is a perfect example of just keeping it very simple, and it creates more of a driving part of the song if you check that out. And then we got different ones there. So from that, we can kind of go and now, another thing we can do as well, and this is another great tip, is adding a bit of pitch bends that occur. And this is something John Summit made a video about on YouTube, which got a lot of views, and I think it's a great tip. A way we can do this, just so I don't teach the John Summit way, because you can just watch his video, is by adding a bit of mono legato and increasing the porta so that you can do pitch bends that don't happen so fast. So you can dial this in. For instance, we could do one here where the bass maybe goes down a bit. And we're going to pick harmonic notes to D, so we're going to go A sharp. Because as we elongate A sharp into a chord, then we have the D in there. So and you can see the change. If we solo, there's a bit of doom that occurs. And from here, the longer the note, it's when it starts to occur. So I'm going to add it there. I'm going to add it here as well. And then this guy, I'm also going to maybe, yeah, we'll leave it like that. I think for variation, nah, we'll. If we can also add it here, like maybe on the D, we can go from. Now, the cool thing here is if I put this note maybe around the middle, not at the end of the note, but somewhere in the middle, what's going to happen is that we're going to pitch down, but the moment the note lets go, we're going to pitch back up. So we're going to get sort of like a pitch bend that occurs like a V. And then we're going to add one, since this one's so long, we can add maybe up. And now we can hear this. From there, if you're having a little bit of ADD with the bass, another thing that we can do is that we can do an octave jump, maybe at the end here, which is something cool that you can do. I think this one's very self-explanatory, and a lot of people already do it. But we can also jump to, again, harmonic notes like the A. And we can also go to the F. And we can also go to the A sharp. And then from there, again, you're like, nah, that's too simple. Make it complex. Okay, so that's going to be the first bass we have here, and a couple of tips that we can kind of talk about. Now, we're going to make something a little bit more melodic with this one, and we're going to utilize, again, the harmonic theory, like going harmonic with it. And this is something they do a lot in like I want to say more like rock and stuff, where if you think about tech house in terms of a chord, it's usually going to be on the one chord the whole time. So you're going to notice a lot of melodies tend to kind of deviate to more of the harmonic notes. And one of the more popular ones that you're going to see is going down to the 7th, which is the E. Now we can go up in A minor to that and then start the melody up here. And then just keep it around. But you notice that we lose a lot of power doing that because now we're starting to go to 2/5 octave, so we can go down. Okay, and now we can start to get melody there like so. Now again, this is just something if you want to go more theoretic with your melody, you want to use a bit of music theory, then by all means do that. And from here, I'm using more of the D as a passing note because it's not going to be part of that chord of the A minor. You could say it's probably going to be like a sus4 or something, but and from here, we're just going to do that, but we're going to add a bit of variation to this. And then we're just going to walk it up. Ow. Okay, from there, let's add a bit of swing to this. Just again, a little to the left, a little nudge, a little love tap. And then again, we're just going to do these to these little guys here. Just a slight move, a slight move. Okay, from there, let's get more like complex with like adding a bit of notes for pitch down. And let's do it more towards the end. Okay, so that's a cool melody that we've created, but again, we can also do the same thing by not going down, but going up to a C. So we can kind of create the melody here where maybe we're going to kind of go. So here I'm going from C, G, to passing note to get down to the F that I want to get to, which again is harmonic to A in the sense that if I elongate this F chord, we have this. Okay, kind of like lead voicing in a way. And maybe we can play around with jumping like so. And then again, just go back to a C. From there, we'll go G, F. We can maybe go to another harmonic note like D, and then go to an E, which is a 7. From there, we can play a bit with the length of the notes because I'm breaking one of the rules, and that is most of them are the same. So maybe we could end some sooner. I find that ending the ones that end here sooner, like at the end of a bar, mini bar, a little more. Maybe we can elongate this. And then just have fun and then slow. All right, guys, and finally, the last tip I want to give is going to come down with your fills. So a lot of people like to just leave the bass the same as they approach that fill that happens after 8 bars in a track or 4 bars. And I think that's a very missed opportunity to do something really cool. Let's assume that we get rid of the kick. Let's assume, yeah, we'll repeat that and we'll have it go all the way to here. Just delete that and run that all the way over here. We can do a lot with this specific portion of opening up the bass and stuff, but also playing around with the composition of it. So for instance, if we're just going to have the bass doing this, and from there we can kind of do a bit of a C part on that. So we obviously have A, B, A, and then we're going to hit a C. And then we can get fancy with it. And the idea of it is to bring it back to the loop, but again, add a bit of variation and keep it more interesting, because now when we do that, and then that just helps create a lot of variation in your track, besides going with the same pattern over and over and over again. But those are going to be some of the tips, guys, that I noticed just listening to a lot of these songs. I didn't put them in any specific order, but just to recap, the key you pick matters. Length of the notes matter in terms to get something a little more groovy rather than boring where everything's the same length to it. Harmonic changes are good for melody. So going from, let's say, A, you can go up to the E, which is the 7th, and the C, which is the 2nd triad in that A minor chord. From there, we can kind of do the nice little pitch bends to make it a lot more interesting, which John Summit calls more of a rolling bass, which I think is fucking dope. And you can still use it in any track just to kind of get the pace not sounding pitch perfect and making it have a little bit of humanization that goes with it. And of course, there was a lot of other ones like going up in octave and whatnot. But I hope that you guys enjoyed it, guys. I hope that this helps in any way or form. And as always, thank you guys for watching the video. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe, hit like, leave a comment if you want. I do read them, and I'll catch you guys next time for another video. You guys take care and peace out.